Trump goes to greet 3 new guests. Among them, the financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Could you please give us your name? Jeffrey Epstein.
Would you please state your full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein.
Is Chomp thing worse than Epstein? Due to popular demand, here we are. I believe the best way to handle this is to really understand who we're talking about here. So, without further ado, Jeffrey Epstein! Okay, so Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953 in Brooklyn. His parents were Pauline Stolofsky, born 1918, and Seymour George Epstein, born 1916. Both of his parents were Jewish. I could make a comment about that, but I prefer not to die in my sleep. Jeffrey was the older of 2 siblings. He had a brother named Mark, and his other sibling, for some reason, I actually just can't find him.
What the hell?
Maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know. Anyway, him and Mark both grew up in the working class neighborhood of Seagate, which is a private gated community in Coney Island, Brooklyn. Now that confuses me because when I hear working class, I don't think private gated community. I think like slums, but I don't know exactly what they think working class means. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it correlates, but yeah. Ever since Epstein was a young child, people actually really fond of him. People thought he was funny, he was, witty, he was cool. Turns out later along the road, he was a pedophile, but yeah. I digress. At age 21, Jeffrey Epstein started working as a physics and a mathematics teacher for teens at the Dalton School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which, already is fucking just bad. Teens and Epstein, horrible mix. Anyway, Epstein was later released from the job as he was really underqualified to teach either physics or mathematics. And that wasn't really the main reason. The main reason, unsurprisingly to us all, he was way too friendly with the female students. He even showed up to a party full of high schoolers. He was the ultimate super senior. He is the super senior. 21 years old talking to like 14-year-olds. Like imagine this guy showed up to your fucking party, dude. Imagine you got a crush in high school and your fucking teacher's hitting on her, bro. Later along the road in August 1981, Jeffrey Epstein founded his own consulting firm, Intercontinental Assets Groups Incorporated, IAG, which assisted clients in recovering stolen money from fraudulent brokers, lawyers, all that good stuff. He even told his friends that he worked for like really high up people, like wealthy people, to recover like their embezzled funds. But like, to put it into simple terms, he was helping people from being fucked over, but at the same time, he was the one originally fucking them over. Like, you're creating a problem for somebody, and then you're also solving it for them. Well, later in 1987, Jeffrey Epstein meant a very important person. Jeffrey Epstein meant this old guy. You're probably wondering, who the fuck is this? Well, this is Stephen Hoffenberg. Stephen Hoffenberg hired Epstein in 1987 as a consultant for Towers Financial Corporation. Later in 1988, while Epstein was still a consultant for Hoffenberg, he actually founded his own financial management firm, J. Epstein and Company. The company was said by Epstein to have formed to manage the assets of clients with more than US $1 billion in net worth. So, think people like, Epstein was like really close to people like, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, as we all know, Donald Trump, even 42nd President Bill Blowjob Under the Table Clinton. Now for the juicy part of the video that you've all been waiting for. When did Epstein get caught? Let's start. So, 2005, Palm Beach police were tipped about a young woman coming and going out of Epstein's house. Turns out that woman was 14 years old, which, not very good. Not at all. Anyway, she was, paid money to do things. And by things, I mean like the type of stuff you'd see at the shoe store in GTA 5. And what was really stupid, in my opinion, about this is that they found a high school transcript of the girl in Epstein's mansion. He kept it. It's just like, it's so stupid. You're planting evidence on yourself. On June 30th, 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to a state charge of procuring a prostitution of a girl below the age of 18. He was, weirdly enough, sentenced to 18 months in prison, which is fucking crazy in my opinion. Fucking less than 2 years for that shit. Now, while most actual, sex offenders go to fucking prison, Epstein, being Epstein, just got house arrest. He got to live in the private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade, and after like 3.5 months, he was allowed to leave on a work release. On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested when he returned to the US from France. God knows what he was doing there. They arrested him on, well, duh, we all know this, charges of sex trafficking during the years of 2002 to 2005. Now, Doge 3, you're probably thinking, how did they know that he did this? Besides, the previous court cases that, were already resolved, were already taken care of. How did they do this? Why did they arrest him? It turns out that a couple FBI agents forced open the door to his Manhattan warehouse, and they had search warrants. They searched the house and they found a bunch of cheese pizza. No. When I say a bunch is not doing justice. like thousands, thousands of like maybe a couple terabytes of cheese pizza, of critical points, of COD points, of cyberpunk, videos, pictures, all of it, bro. And ironically, after he was took into custody, he had the audacity to request release on bond, offering to post $100 million with the condition that he would be allowed to be on house arrest in his New York City mansion. Obviously, understandably, this is fucking denied because that's fucking crazy. Now, on to the death of Jeffrey Epstein. How did Jeffrey Epstein die? Well, there was 2 actual incidents. One, he almost died, and the other, he committed suicide. I'm doing air quotes right now. I know you can't tell, but I'm doing air quotes. July 23rd, 2019, 1:30 in the morning, Jeffrey Epstein was found on the floor in his cell with marks around his neck. His cellmate, former New York City Police Department officer Nicholas T., who was also awaiting trial for 4 counts of murder, which, goddamn, they put Jeffrey Epstein in with this guy. I'm surprised he didn't kill him. Yeah, he was questioned about his, what the fuck happened to Epstein? Why the fuck is there marks around his neck? He just basically said, I have no idea what happened. I have no knowledge what happened, no idea. Now, obviously, their, correctional staff suspected that maybe it was suicide, but they didn't rule out the possibility that, he might have assaulted him. Now, later, I personally think the rest of what I'm about to say is a bunch of bullshit, but, do with what I say as you will. When Epstein was placed into the special housing unit, the jail informed the Justice Department that Epstein would have a stalemate. And then a guard would obviously look into his cell every, 20 minutes or so, just to make sure nothing, crazy's going on. Again, I personally think this is some fucking bullshit, but August 9th, 2019, Epstein's cellmate was just happened to be transferred out. And no one took his place. Now Epstein's just by himself. And then later in that evening, the guards, which they fell asleep. The guards fell asleep apparently. That's their story. And they didn't check on him for like 4 hours. And even more crazy, it's a crazy coincidence, the 2 cameras watching Epstein malfunctioned. They just turned off for 4 hours. So unsurprisingly, Epstein was found dead in his cell in New York City at 6:30 in the morning. Now the Bureau of Prisons said life-saving measures were initiated right as they got to him, which, I mean, I don't know what type of life-saving measures you could really do on a guy who was like fucking shot 10 times in the fucking back of his head. That's just my opinion though. That about wraps up Jeffrey Epstein and his moral character. Now, on to Chomp Thing, who I would say is slightly arguably worse. Chomp Thing was first introduced in Garden Warfare 1, February 25th, 2014. Chomper is a melee character-ish. I mean, his actual primary damage is more of a spray than a chomp. Albeit the fact that he is green, he does not contain any traits. He does not have the toxic trait. He does not do toxic damage, so there is that really big downside to him. As I've already mentioned, he does spray damage instead of the traditional chomp, which in my opinion, of course, is noticeably worse. And something I would like to say is that Chomp Thing he's a poor character, he does low damage. In my opinion, he's very vulnerable to literally any character in this game. Like, I will tell you this, he's easily countered by every single zombie with the exception of Rhodey Z. If you're an imp, you could literally just use Gravity Grenade. If you're Deadbeard, you could either go into your barrel or you could just go into your cannon. If you're Super Brains, you could jump in the air and just kick away from him. If you're Foot Soldier, just leap. If you're an engineer, just stun him and then shoot him down. If you're an all-star, put a dummy down and just dash away. If you're a scientist, just use a warp. Even better if you have the secondary warp, the energy warp. If you're a goat, this one's a little more difficult, but I mean, I think you could probably just use your speed boost and get out of there. So with all this, I mean, you could see that to get kills as Chomp Thing, to actually like play well, there is a minute level of skill you need, but what you really need is just the right conditions. You need to be lucky and hope that your opponent has no abilities. I guess that's the only really efficient way to play this character, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna talk about the bad things real quick. Bad damage, very vulnerable, very easily countered. Good things, nothing, he sucks. I know you're thinking, Dozier 3, this is just your opinion, right? Well, actually, I've gotten 2 random people to submit their own testimony about Epstein and Chomp Thing, and who they think is better. Guys, take it away.
Okay, so, Epstein. Boo! Boo Epstein! He's a bad guy. He's a Diddy blood. What else do you do? Sex trafficking? I don't know. Just rich white guy. But Chomp Thing. Okay, if I had to pick between mastering Chomp Thing or Epstein being alive again, fuck, dude. I'm gonna have to go with Epstein, I can't lie. I hate Chomp Thing. Only Chomper I like is, what's the name? Chompula.
Meanwhile. Boo Chomper. Yay, Epstein.
So with all this considered, with all our opinions put together, I think it is pretty safe to say that Chomp thing is worse than Epstein. It came down very close, I'll be honest. But at the end of the day, I just gotta be honest, dude. Like, you know, Epstein, horrible person, you know. He's probably looking up at us right now. But, it's just that, you know, Chomp thing is just so much worse, you know what I mean? Like, it's uncomparable, in my opinion. In my opinion, of course. But, you know, it still is kind of close, but Chomp thing's just that bad. First, thank you to everyone who has recently or has been subscribed to Hoska 3. I really do appreciate the level of support in the past video has gotten us. I really appreciate the level of support the last video has gotten us. Thank you for watching the entire video. I really appreciate it. I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe, hit the bell for more daily videos. On every single video you see on Instagram and TikTok, put the worse than Epstein gif to help spread the good word of my channel. Besides that, have a good day. Bye!